Well, hello there. Welcome back to Watchbox Studios. This is the Trading Desk. You're looking right at it. My name is Joshua Thanos, and this is not Jason Main. Who the hell are you?
George Mayer, substituting for Jason Main. Happy to be here, JT.
Yeah, man. So George is here in place of Jason. Jason, I think, is in Florida, possibly buying weapons. We'll find out next week. He'll be back with some. I'm sure he'll be there. So today's show is it's going to be, I think, just as fun as last week's show. We had a good show. Yeah, absolutely. So a little background about George. George, why don't you tell everybody, give us a 10-second review of your history.
I've been with Goffberg for 10 years, seen highs and lows.
Wow.
And happy to have the Watch You Want transferees. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool,
Company's
man.
never been more fun to work for, I would say.
Awesome. So you were, in terms of like our online sales, you were the first person to kind of start that, right?
Yes. I started it actually in the basement of the Comcast Center when we had a Rolex boutique down there.
Nice.
So would open up the store every day, close the store every day. Anything I sold, I'd go back to our store and Boyd's department store, package it all up, ship it all out, and
Wow.
that was that.
That's 10 years ago.
Yeah, going through some snowstorms with our security guard Lex.
Sounds terrible.
So a lot different now.
You know where they don't have snowstorms?
Florida.
That's right.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so let's get started. Just like every show, we're going to start with wrist shots. And since you're the guest, let's see what you got on your wrist.
I am wearing my Havana Octaloon from FP Journe. So it normally comes on a Havana color strap, but put it on a Carolina blue strap, which I think is cool. I think it says something about the aesthetic of FP Journes that you can put so many different color straps on them and they all look good.
Yeah.
So
and that's your personal watch, yeah?
It is, yeah. Love this one.
We're not fakers here. This is George's personal watch. I remember when you got that. So that's made of platinum, yeah?
Yep.
40 millimeter?
Platinum 40 millimeter.
Wow.
Yes.
And the cool thing about those watches is similar to my watch. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Oh, nice. There you go. So everyone knows this watch if you watch our shows before. This is my Panerai 2A. It's it has a story behind it, which I'm not getting into today, George. I have it on a blue rubber Panerai strap. It has a brush. Let's see here. Let's see if this is awkward. All right. A brushed steel buckle. It's a base model. This one is from 1997, 1998. It's again, Panerai 2A. Hashtag 2A. All right, but so something that they have in common is the ease of strap changing. In fact, your Journe probably is easier to change.
Yes, it does have a quick release mechanism here.
Nice, dude.
I'm not going to go for it right now, but I'll give
okay.
a little. So gold movement, as are most FP Journe movements, except for the sport line.
Nice.
And you can just quick release these pins. I'm not going to go for it and scratch up my watch here on the show, but if I had a good touch, I'd be confident to do that. And easy to switch over. So cool feature.
Awesome. And they didn't make very many of that. Well, I mean, the brand doesn't make very many watches as it is, but that dial is especially limited. Yeah.
They made 658 mechanical watches last year.
Oh wow.
That doesn't include the Elegantes.
Right.
And the Havana line they just started making, roughly I'd say around a year ago.
Sure.
And they're now doing the line in rose gold, which I think is pretty cool.
With this brown dial. Ooh,
I think it's awesome.
I
know some people in the office, think it's much better in platinum, but I like the combo. I think it works well.
Who's that, by the way?
Armand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was calling it out today.
All right, so we're gonna have to call him out
on the show.
Shame on you. All right, great. So that's a wrist shot. I got Panerai. We got the Journe. We're crossing all barriers here, and so let's get right into our next segment. One that I'm very excited for today. Let's see if I got some good luck. It's this or that. Hey. All right. So this week, similar to every week, one of us chose the watch and the other person chose the competing watch. So this week I let George choose his watch first, and I have a feeling I'm going to lose this one, George.
So I hear Jason has a great streak going. Jason, I'm going to try and keep this alive for you. Fighting strong for you, bud. I picked a black ceramized aluminum Defy 21 El Primero. Sick watch. So 2 separate power reserves. It's 100th of a second chronograph. So you wind the watch counterclockwise, it winds the movement. For timekeeping, you wind it clockwise, and it winds the chronograph. It has a power reserve indicator for the chronograph at 12 o'clock. And as you activate the chrono, you can see that hand.
Is that thing broken?
It's sweeping around once. It makes a full revolution once every second.
Wow.
And you stop it, has a second subdial for the chrono down here, and that was 10 0.79 seconds right there.
Wow.
So,
and
yeah,
so
pretty.
what would you
pretty
use that
impressive.
to time? Absolutely nothing because it's useless. All
Yeah,
right.
but it's cool nonetheless.
It
It's very,
certainly
very
is
cool.
It's a cool watch. It's definitely sportier than the one I picked, though I think that functionally mine might be sportier. So we've already got some guys in the chat box shouting out my Geo, which is what I have here. And you might be thinking to yourself, Josh, why did you bring a Glashute original on the show today? And for a minute I thought about that myself, but then I realized I got a really cool watch here. So what I have here is, if you can't tell, is the... Get it right here. Senator Chronograph Panorama Date. This is a 42 millimeter, even though it actually looks a little larger than your watch, which is supposed to be a 44.
Correct.
42 millimeters. This is a flyback chronograph. You would not know that by looking at the dial, and that's the German way. We're keeping it hidden, right? So let's go ahead and let's get that thing started. Oh, look at that. So we have blue lume that actually in the dark, can we go ahead and shut off all the lights, guys, real quick? Okay, we're not going to do that. But in the dark, it does lume blue as well. It's not just paint. Let's go ahead and... Flyback. Oh, baby, look at that. We're flying back. All right. So I have a 42 millimeter flyback chrono with a digital date at the 6. And one thing that Glashute likes to tout is the fact that they are the only ones who have a digital date that are actually on the same plane, right? That was something that was during our last training that we're very proud about that. No other brand has a digital date that moves on the same exact plane. Can you tell when you look at other watches? Absolutely not. But the fact is, the case is, that these two are on the same plane. So that's really cool.
I would say that these two brands are two of the more underappreciated brands. Would you agree? I mean, I think that they are unbelievable manufacturers and they offer terrific value for the money.
That's true.
This watch, the Defy 21, is 11.6 retail, and I think it's difficult for them to manufacture. If you go on, gray market websites like a Joma shop, you'll see they don't offer a discount on it and they say back ordered. So
which means
it's a difficult one to get. We don't see very many of them, and I think it's a very wearable watch. I like how it has the rubber inlay to the strap.
That is nice.
It's very good looking and
so that has rubber inlay to the strap. Does that have a screw down crown?
It does not have a screw down crown. Oh, he's calling me out. Jason is taking shots
no screw down crown.
Now.
Where
my
is?
gosh.
Let's get the close up here. Hey, all right, here we're all over the place today. So this watch does have a screw down crown and a 100-meter water resistance, which means I'm taking this to the beach this weekend. Whereas you're not bringing that.
This has 100 meters of water resistance.
I don't trust anything without a screw down crown.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't trust it. But again, so this watch and a much highly more finished movement than you get on the El Primero, though El Primero technically is probably a little bit more of a well-known movement, at least.
Yeah, I mean, used to be in the Daytona, as many people know.
That's right.
Glashute, though, I think you get 80% of a Longenstone for half the price.
Well, less than half the price.
Yeah.
I mean, so 11.6 or so retail, or no,
11.6.
11.6 retail. Mine has a 14.9 retail. Though we can assume they can be found for less.
That's a big spread right there.
But pre-owned, you could probably find them for roughly the same because they are having some issues. We've heard about making that watch, so the distribution has been very slow. Demand is still high because it's a cool watch.
Yeah, I think it's a combo of both. It's difficult to manufacture, and also I think they're smart in keeping them scarce.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of things that.
You think they're doing that on purpose?
I do.
Okay.
I think that
optimistic. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think brands, all want to take a page out of Rolex's book. I know some people are upset with how difficult it is to get Rolexes right now.
Yeah.
But I do think that luxury is scarcity at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true. And well, let's save that conversation to our next segment because we are getting into that. But all right, so again, we have the Zenith, El Primero, the Defy, which actually, you know what? This is the best Defy they've ever made.
Oh. I like it more than the titanium version.
Jeez, George, what the hell is happening here, guys? I thought at least, out of pity.
Jason came through for you. Pressure's off.
Jeez, no, but we have until the entire show. So, guys, under your viewing box here, you'll see the link. It will be a comeback because, hold on, I haven't voted yet either. Hold on, let me go ahead and do that now. So go ahead and keep voting. Voting for the Geo. It's a better value for your money, better finished watch. It's a German watch, but it's got some whimsy to it too. Look at those. Look at that lume. You don't see a lume like that unless it's on a Panerai. Which, hey, there you go. This is a great 2-watch collection, by the way. All right, you heard it here. All right, so keep voting, guys, and let's move on to our next segment. Let's go ahead and get that off the screen. Go ahead, get it off. And our next segment is what is it? Market assessment. I think we have. Maybe. Oh, look at that.
There we go.
We're professional here, George.
Love it.
Yeah, cool. So this week in the office, George and I were talking a little bit about kind of what we want to talk about. And because George, his background is heavily based on retail, and even more so in that, having direct contact with the brand reps themselves, and having so much experience with that, which I don't. I started from the pre-owned world and moved into this world, so most of my my
we have different
experience,
backgrounds,
big time
different trainings,
backgrounds. So we wanted to talk about how the brands are handling business, especially during this uptick in the market, which we can agree we're definitely seeing that,
big
right?
Time.
So different things are different factors have kind of decided this currently, right? So crazy. Well, the economy is really good right now. Seems like, right?
That helps, yeah.
That certainly does help when there's extra money, and there's more people with extra money. There's always going to be extra money for luxury goods. On top of that, we saw about 2 years ago, we started seeing really crazy auction results, and that's what really kind of tipped it off with Rolex and Patek, right?
Absolutely.
And then, we've seen some brands decide to change the way they do business, and that's what we want to talk about today.
Right. Well, one other factor, too, which
Sure.
I think has definitely helped the watch industry, has been social media.
Oh, without a doubt.
So I didn't even join Instagram until just recently, but
I helped you
it's
out with
pretty,
that.
yeah,
Let's give
thank
you a
you.
high
Appreciate
five.
it.
There
My
you go.
Instagram coach here.
We'll talk about that. And he's got actually a very reasonable Instagram handle. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
See that,
decent.
Jason?
Not.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
But I think it's been a perfect storm for the watch industry. I have been in it long enough where I've seen ebbs and flows. So I saw pre-2008 when there was the global financial crisis, and then we were begging for people to buy watches after that.
That was death, right? Yeah.
And then now I'd say it's stronger than it was before that, and a lot healthier too. And I think that it's due to the economy's strong, social media. Asia's come back big time, huge,
yeah.
Up over 40% this year, which is insane.
That's
U.S.
huge.
is up 10%.
In fact, we have an office now. Watchbox has an office in
Yes,
Asia.
we do. We have an office in Hong Kong. That's supposed to be super cool. What we were talking about is it's interesting seeing how a lot of the brands, so many brands are doing well, but they're doing it quite differently. So you have Patek and Rolex, who are both absolutely killing it right now. They're seen as like the kings of the industry,
right.
And they're doing it all through their partners. So super loyal to their dealer network. They don't do any boutique only watches.
Right.
Sell them for anything like through do a Hodinkee special or do like an e-exclusive or something like that.
Sounds like you're calling somebody out there.
No. They just sell every watch, including like the new Pepsi that just came out and stuff like that. It goes straight to the retailer first, not sold at the boutiques initially. And then you have a brand like AP that is also doing incredibly well, and they're doing the complete opposite.
Yeah.
They're closing retailers left and right. Their distribution, they're getting down to like less than 10 retailers in the United States.
It's crazy. I mean, how many did they have? 2 years ago, roughly?
I think they had 40 doors as recently as
40
6 months ago.
Wow.
I mean, a year ago they had 40 doors, including
75%
their
of their dealer
boutiques.
network in the U.S. it seems like is closing.
Correct.
Wow.
They're going more to...
And you would think that if somebody who was not involved in this would think, oh, well, they must be doing terrible. They're closing all these deals.
Right,
They can't
you
sell
would
these
think.
watches. It's the total opposite of that.
Right. So they're growing with the same amount of watches. And how do you do that? You take a bigger piece of the pie yourself.
Yeah.
So same amount of inventory. They lock that in, 40,000 watches a year for 5 years. And they're just making more money themselves off their 40,000 watches. How do you do that? You sell more direct to the consumer, which they're taking great pride in. You reduce wholesale margin to your dealers. And there's different ways to do it.
Right.
But it's interesting because they're distributing their product entirely on the opposite sides of the spectrum.
Right.
Yet they're both doing incredibly well.
Incredibly well. So part of it is certainly due to an up market, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we'll see once things kind of normalize or even there's a downturn, we'll see really, because that's when you really make your money, you make your business at least, is when it gets tough. And
it's going to happen at some point.
It will.
So it'll be interesting to see, which brands are better suited to, go through a tough time.
Yeah, and we'll see. But even more than those three top brands, because those are the ones we always talk about. If you watch our show every week, you know that we always talk about the three brands that hold the most value in regards to their retail are going to be Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and Rolex, and not even in that order, right? So once you get away from those brands, we talk about a lot of times like value plays. So you have Glashütte, you have Zenith, both part of larger conglomerates. Brands,
Swatch
right?
Group and LVMH, respectively.
That's right. Exactly. So, I mean, how are those guys doing, and what do you see them doing?
So it's interesting what the groups are doing. I think that they're all trying to figure it out now. And one thing that all the brands have recognized that is not going away is pre-owned.
Yeah.
So you have Richemont, buying Watchfinder, which is a
Huge
just
competitor of ours,
a pre-owned platform solely based out of the UK. Do they try and scale that in some way, shape, or form?
You would assume so.
Ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
Yeah.
AP has been outspoken about trying to get into pre-owned.
Well, they're going to be opening their own physical stores to sell pre-owned, from what I hear. Those are rumors.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult. It's not like you just get into pre-owned. I mean, you and I know that, but there are a lot of barriers to entry.
Yes.
You need a lot of capital.
Well, let's start a business 100 years ago. No, that's for us.
Yeah.
That's the joke. But yeah, you need a lot of capital because cash flow is the number one issue for dealers, pre-owned dealers in this industry, right? Cash flow is number
Absolutely.
one. That's what we see when we go to all dealer shows. These guys are looking to move these watches a lot of times at no profit because they need to keep turning that inventory and having more money to buy more inventory. So cash flow is the number one issue.
Then you need a value add. And the value add that we have watchmakers on site.
That's right.
Authorized, whether it be Patek Philippe were authorized, Rolex,
Omega.
Richemont. Mike Michaels just went away to Panerai, and JLC
Right.
just got his
IWC as well, yeah.
certificate for them. So when we get a watch, we take great pride in making it better and better condition
Sure.
After it goes through our inspection process,
Right.
or whatever we need to do to clean it up, whether it be have it serviced or replace a strap, polish
Right.
it if need be, and then we stand behind our watches with a 15-month warranty.
Sure.
So I think
And it's
that's
actually
a lot different.
serviceable warranty. There's a lot of people, you can have an 8-year warranty, but if you can't stand behind that warranty with factory parts or with skilled watchmakers, then it's worth it.
Yeah, what's it mean? Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
So, I think what you're getting at is that, as the market tightens up and all these brands get into pre-owned, you're going to see the level of pre-owned watches, like the standard condition and, actually having to warranty these things, all these things are going to go up, right? Because it's going to become more competitive.
Absolutely. I think that what we're seeing now is I don't know if more watches are going to be sold on a year-to-year basis than they are right now, in the sense that these watches aren't thrown away. They're meant to last for hundreds of years. So whereas a guy may have a budget to buy 3 watches a year and he used to buy 3 new watches, maybe now he's buying 2 pre-owned watches and 1 new watch.
Yeah.
So
well, the brands want to get into it, just like pre-owned cars, obviously a much smaller scale, but you can assume that the level and the baseline standard for pre-owned cars is much higher than it was, say, 50 years ago, right? Before, when the brand didn't recognize that. When they get into it and they can service, they can warranty, and they have the infrastructure, that's gonna bring the entire market up. And that's going to be, I think that even when the market hits a downturn, I think that's going to be a lasting. It's going to be a lasting part of the market. They're never going to back out of that pre-owned, in my opinion.
Right. Now, if you were to go to an Aston Martin dealer or a Mercedes dealer and you wanted to trade your Porsche,
sure,
they would take it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you go to any boutique, monobrand boutique, they're not taking a trade from another brand. But
No.
I do think that that's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Sure.
I think you're going to see, the IWC boutique in New York or the AP boutique taking in a Rolex. Mm-hmm. I think everyone will start with Rolex because the market is defined better than any other brand. Mm-hmm. So I believe that 90% of Watchfinder's business is Rolex, in fact.
I know that when I first found out about them in the packs, it was really only Rolex what they had.
Right.
And those are, again, so like if we're gonna peek behind the curtain, when I go to those dealer shows, 90% of the inventory in the room is Rolex, and they're all trading at $500 here, $100 here, $50 here. It's just they're just moving that inventory because it's such a solid market. So it makes sense to do it that way. But I might disagree with you though. I think that the brands that understand it, and like how AP did, right? They started taking trade-ins in their 2 company-owned boutiques in New York and in Bal Harbour. In Miami, they were only taking Audemars because number one, they can identify those watches. I think that's an issue. Without proper training, even from a baseline, without proper training, the boutique staff not going to be able to always identify a fake Rolex or a fake Panerai or something like that. So that's something that has to be taken into account. So they can identify their watches. They even have, a lot of times like pseudo watchmakers or like low-level watchmakers in the store, change straps and things like that. They can look at the watch and tell what it is, number one. But number 2, like you said, they can service those watches. They understand those watches, and they can speak to the customers about those watches as well. And that was one thing that Audemars did initially. They didn't want to take any other watches in trade. They only want to take their own watches towards new watches. I think they are going to be the first somewhat of a larger brand that is going to start taking in other watches. In fact, when I went there and helped them set up their pre-owned program, that was one of the topics that eventually they were going to have to start taking in other brands. It's delicate because, all these brands have somewhat respect for each other too. So, if a watch doesn't hold as much value, so if somebody walks into the AP boutique with a gold Breitling, might be a little tough. It's a hard conversation to have, and you don't want to trash another brand as well, another Swiss brand that you're going to see at an expo or so, and it's a small industry, so everybody kind of knows each other as well. So that's going to be something tough to stay civil and take in brand watches from other brands.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be difficult for them. But I mean, I think, an AP would love if a guy comes in with a Patek Nautilus and says, "Hey, I want to trade my Patek for an AP and getting into an AP." They would love that. But they don't have the infrastructure yet to do that. They would have to go through a third party or whatnot, which they can have relationships to do that.
But what if they walk in there with a 10-year-old Zenith Defy?
Right. Certain watches, I mean, Rolex, like you said, is, the market's highly defined.
Eternal.
People know what the stuff is worth. There's a lot of information out there. It's very transparent. When it comes to a Glashütte, your average Glashütte.
$14.9 retail.
That, I mean, it's still made now, so you have a sense of what it can be purchased for brand new, and you can work off that. What's the difference? What's a reasonable spread? But what about a Glashütte that was made 5 years ago?
Right. So how do you do the research? I mean, we know how to do that because we've been doing it for so long.
Right.
We're ahead of the game there, and in fact, that's why Audemars brought in a company like us to help them with their original pre-owned program. And there's other brands that reach out to us as well, asking us things like that, and other boutiques as well. Different dealers will reach out to us because we are so well versed in the market and we're in it on a daily basis. Whereas if you just decide to get into this market, there's such a huge learning curve in understanding what's happening. And in fact, I mean, so you're responsible for sending out monthly emails talking about the state of each brand so that we know, what to look out for when a watch comes in trade or somebody wants to offer us something, right? I mean, that's something that we do on a monthly basis, that you're having to look at the market from a whole perspective, looking at retail, looking at resale, and putting something together for us so that we can all be on the same page.
Right, and I think a lot of the brands have highs and lows. I mean, Rolex and Patek seem to be doing tremendously pretty regularly, but other brands have gone through lulls and then they come back, and it only takes a couple nice new releases, and then it gets some momentum behind them. And I think that a watch like this for Zenith is huge. I would love to see them continue to come out with quality product. I know that Jean-Claude Biver has said that this is his last book. So the guy made Blancpain, made Hublot. Came out with, he invented the Big Bang, and so he's built two pillars of Blancpain is with Swatch Group obviously, but he's built two powerhouse brands, and now he's trying to make Zenith, and he's put a good team in place to do it, and I hope he does it, because I think they make a really high quality product.
Well, you can see, so if you make a relevant watch and then you control the distribution, magically, boom, value starts going up. People want your watches. Similar to a brand like Vacheron, right? So when I first started here 5 years ago in this industry, when people talk about like the Holy Trinity, it was Vacheron, Patek, and Audemars, right? People don't really talk about Vacheron so much anymore. But what's something that we've seen that's surprising that we didn't think it was going to be the case is that the value retention on the new overseas has actually been pretty strong because of what?
Scarcity.
That's right.
Right. It's particularly the blue dial.
Right.
So very, very difficult to get new. So how do you determine what a watch is worth on the secondary market? One of the factors. A blue dial overseas automatic, for us as an authorized retailer, extremely difficult to get. It could take us 5 months to get the watch.
Right.
So, the fact that it's so difficult means it's going to bring a stronger value on the secondary market for somebody who wants it because the ease of access isn't there.
Right.
Whereas if you can get a watch that you can buy, tomorrow or get it at, many different points
when you
of
can
distribution.
call a bunch of different dealers and pit them against each other, and it's a race to the
obviously
bottom.
there's going to need to be a bigger spread between what you can get it for new than pre-owned. It gets more complicated when there's less information. It's more of like a blind market.
Sure.
So there's no comps. Vintage now. Vintage has gone bananas.
That's right.
Why? Because all these watches are so different. All these vintage Rolexes. You have like, oh, this is the Bart dial.
Bart dial, rectangle dial GMT or square dial. Somebody was talking about that in the office today. I'm clueless when it comes to pre-owned, and I'm honestly scared shitless.
I take pride in knowing a lot about watches in the new market. I will not even pretend that I know a lot about the vintage market. I don't know it well at all. But for instance, like a Bart dial on a Rolex. I was just told how it looks like Bart Simpson's. The crown looks like Bart Simpson's head.
Oh yeah,
and hairdo, and that's why it's called a Bart crown. So that
$500,000 now.
Yeah, right, exactly. So little intricacies like that can make a world of difference. And at the end of the day, too, it comes down to when it's a watch that comes up once every decade at auction or just anywhere. At the end of the day, what's it worth? It's worth what one person is willing to pay for it. Because it's not like there's another one going to come up anytime soon, especially if it was a limited edition model or whatnot.
But they set the market, and now it's an all boats rise type scenario. So then you see Daytona's going for insane money. Then you see GMT's going for insane money. Then you see Submariners, right? And then all those start getting so expensive that people who have they don't have unlimited funds, but they have almost unlimited funds. Then they start going after, Seamasters, vintage Seamasters, and spending crazy money on those. Breguets, we saw Type 20s or something like that. I saw one for money that you would have never thought. And then you see guys, especially in a market like this, spending money on, the Snoopy, right? The Snoopy right now is a $25,000 watch.
It's unbelievable.
$25,000 stainless steel Speedmaster.
It was a $71.50, $73.50 retail or whatever it was. And then you have a guy like Tim, who knows more about watches than any of us, comparing the case back of the watch to that of the center of the cloisonné, enamel world time from Patek Philippe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a watch that's trading for six figures being compared to a $7,000 Omega.
Which is now a $25,000 watch.
Right.
And then, so in terms of all boats rise, now you have the previous generation, I think it was like the Apollo something or other, with the black dial and the blue with the Snoopy on it, which legitimately last year was a $3,500 watch, is now $12,500.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you see crazy things happen.
You see with the silver Snoopy, I think that they've found homes where the owners don't want to sell them. So it's one thing if a watch is hot and you need to pay a lot to get it. You have a hard time getting a silver Snoopy now. It's not like there are a lot of them available.
No, there's less speculators on the silver Snoopy, whereas what you see, unfortunately, I don't know, unfortunately, who cares? On new Rolexes right now, right? There's an attack of speculators trying to hit every single dealer and trying to get those watches to sell them, right? So guys like us have to play defense against people like that, right?
It's very difficult.
So you don't really. It's funny because I guess I don't remember ever feeling like all the people buying Snoopys were speculators, right? It's just they're legitimate collectors who like these watches, and they became so scarce that even though they made what? There was a 1,300 or 1,600 something like that?
1,900 and something change.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
just below 2,000.
We got all the facts here, guys. So say they made less than 2,000, and you think, all right, well, there's 2,000 Speedmasters. Well, a watch can't be worth a ton of money. There's so much demand for that watch that right now, if you want to get your hands on one, you don't want to wait. Well, there's no more waiting anymore. If you want to get one today, you got to spend $25,000 for that watch.
Yeah,
it's a handsome watch. It's beautiful.
It is. I like it a lot. It's cool. Looks great in the dark too.
Not $25,000 for my money, but there's certainly. You know what? If I was one of those guys, I guess I'd put the money out there.
I think another factor as to why some of these watches are going up so much in value too is there isn't that much innovation left in the industry, and I think you're going to see subtle changes at Basel now. Even the Pepsi, which people rave about and are going nuts about. So they, Rolex has made a Jubilee bracelet. Rolex has made a Jubilee bracelet for a long time, and they made blue. They made that bezel in ceramic for a long time, but it's just a different iteration, different combo. Sure. Patek the same, putting a 240 movement, a perpetual movement in different cases, the Nautilus, and and people are going bonkers for it. And it's cool because they're not doing too much. They're keeping it, the brand identity the same, not trying to step out and be somebody that they're not. Sure. But the fact of the matter is, no one's coming
Daytona
out with a watch that's going to make you smarter, make you fly. So you're looking back. You could. Some watches do. It's what it's all about, right? When you put on that new watch
if you put that Zenith on,
great.
I don't know, you feel maybe faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Or slower, depending on how you look at it.
Listen, I ran a 4.440 this morning. I was wearing my Zenith, the 521.
Yeah, I saw it happen. It's not fake news, guys.
But yeah, I think that's why people are looking looking back at other stuff because they're not as concerned about,
Hold on, guys. Let's stop for a second. Let's get the poll up on the camera, please.
Oh, no, Jason.
We're going to sit here
concerned
and wait until the poll. Woo, baby, look at that. I mean, that's as good as a win for me. Oh, my gosh,
somebody's got to come in right now.
I haven't even voted yet.
Do it for Jason. Don't do it for me. Do it for Jason.
I have not even voted yet. Hold on, let me go ahead and let's see. Oh, wait, I voted for myself and I'm still losing all of a sudden.
Nice. People are coming to my rescue.
Nightmare.
Do it for Jason.
All right, but hey, listen, I'm getting close here. All right, so, but yeah, all right, we're ranting at this point. But I mean, these are the conversations we have in the office. We get carried away, maybe have a few beers, and then we get deep down the rabbit hole. All right, cool. So let's do this. Let's put a cap on this conversation. I think we've kind of exhausted it somewhat. We could certainly carry it on in the future when you're back on the show. But I did see a few questions. I don't know. Have you been on the chat at all?
I've been trying to tune in a little bit. Going
you see
back
our friend
there.
Armin's on there. CQ, the watch guy's there. JBO Surf. Eddie Landsberg.
So there's a good question from a value perspective. Is a Snoopy better than a Dark Side? Love the question. John H. Awesome. So
depends on how you look at it.
So the Dark Side of the Moon, I think, is an unbelievable value for the money at $12,000. It's a $12,000 retail. I think it's an incredible, 9,300 movement. I believe there's white gold indices, and that was a watch that when it first came out, it was a retail piece, or it was trading close to retail. One sold at auction. It's documented for $15,000 over retail, and then.
Overzealous.
They pumped them out. They gave the Dark Side of the Moon the guy the coloring book, and he made all these different versions, and it got out of control.
The darker side, the lighter dark side, the vintage side,
you can get the original
side.
Dark Side of the Moon right now for $8,000
less.
Maybe.
Can you believe that?
And
well, it depends on who you buy it from.
And that watch, I would say, is a nicer watch than the Snoopy. Would I rather have the Snoopy? Probably.
So it goes back to last week's show. Is it a value play or is it a watch that holds value?
Right.
Well,
so it's like, what's a better value? Like the Snoopy is worth more on the secondary market, significantly more. But what's a better value? You could make a strong argument it's the Dark Side.
Well, you can either pay $25,000 for a steel Speedmaster, or you can pay $75,000 or $8,000 for a ceramic 44 millimeter automatic badass watch.
Right. That was a good question, John.
Cool. All right, so I got a few other ones. So I have Horology Blog. It says, if you had a 5711, a white ceramic Daytona, and a Pepsi GMT, which one would make you want to trade all three? Actually, I didn't read that question before. That sounds like nonsense. We're going to go on to the next one. I don't even know what that question is. David Ebb says, Josh, do you think the new tariff on steel will cause a price increase in the watch market? That's interesting. What do you think?
That's a international affairs question, right? Because I think it depends. Seeing as it's manufactured in Switzerland,
right.
How would that work, right? Because
I don't know. Is it American steel being exported, or is it a finished steel coming in? Because I don't think when watches are imported, they're not imported based on their base metals. They're imported based on what they are, right? So when we import a watch, it's literally we're importing a watch, and they ask us what it's made of, but I don't think they change the tariffs. But I'm also not an expert on this at all.
You got me on that. That's a good one.
Doesn't seem like we know that answer whatsoever.
I know that when Switzerland severed ties with the franc and the euro, it created all sorts of issues. And I know that something that the watch brands need to pay close attention to is currencies. You have like with Brexit, for instance, watches were so significantly cheaper in the UK, and they still are, by the way. So Rolexes are 25% less, on average, approximately, in the UK now than they are in other parts of the world. But they're not supplying the UK nearly as well as they are, America and other countries. So. But that's something, the brands, before they have any sort of price adjustment, Rolex hasn't had a price increase since 2012, and they could easily, the market would get, in the U.S., it would probably help the market. Which GMT?
Sorry, good question. The Jubilee.
At 92.50.
Okay, interesting. But the Batman is 89.50?
89.50.
Okay, so I wonder where the extra few bucks is coming from.
Well, the original GMT, the all black, is 84.50. Why is the black and blue 89.50? Is it because it came out
Shower
later?
Thoughts. I have no idea.
Exactly.
Interesting.
But that's something that they want to pay close attention to. I don't think Rolex would ever have a price decrease. In order for them to continue to succeed and do like they're doing, before they make a decision like that, they want to make sure that something doesn't happen where if they have a price increase here, all of a sudden goods come flowing in from all other parts of the world because they're so much cheaper elsewhere, and then there's an influx of gray market goods.
Arbitrage, yeah.
So
cool. All right. So the last question, very important question: how do Nomos do pre-owned? Especially so much strong.
Yeah, that's a good. Relatively speaking, I'd say they do pretty well. I mean, I think
like middle tier in terms of like the list of brands.
Relative to their retail prices, what do they sell for pre-owned? They hold up
better than 50%.
I'd say around there.
Yeah,
better than 50%. I think is accurate.
But also, like, what's the most expensive? No, she's like 6,000 or something.
They make gold that are in the teens. Actually, you rarely see them. People, that's not what they're known for. But I would say if I had to give a rough estimate on what is the average Nomos sell for pre-owned, I'd say 40 off, 35 off.
So there you go. That's comparatively to a lot of brands, it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're done here. So let's go ahead and wrap it up.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was
pretty cool. Thank you for letting me sit in. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, hey,
Hope
guys.
Some of you enjoyed it.
Oh, son of a... Whoa, how did this happen?
Oh, baby.
This is a nightmare.
I think people came to my rescue. Wanted to show them
Somebody's
off. Thank
logged
you guys.
on to a VPN.
Appreciate it. Bravo.
You know what? I'm out of this. All right, okay. Let's wrap this up. All right, so guys, if you liked the show, leave us some good feedback on the comments at the bottom. Also, send the link to your friends. Subscribe. All right, you can call me. My phone number's right there. That's my cell number. You can get me 24/7. If I don't answer, it's probably because I'm busy. You can also follow me on Instagram. I am Mr. Thanos, Mr. Thanos. Very simple. And unlike Jason Maine, you got a pretty easy to remember Instagram
It's
handle
Mayor
as well.
Time. At It's Mayor Time.
It's Mayor Time.
Check me out.
Wow. What a thought. You could have a very simple Instagram handle that people could remember. ITS, Mayor, your last name, and then Time.
There it is.
Interesting. Okay, guys. So again, subscribe here. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Flickr, on Pinterest, on Friendster and Foursquare and Skype and Google Plus and Flickr and everything else you can think of. Tumblr as well. Go ahead and subscribe. All right. Oh, one last thing. If you guys want to win a free Breitling, go to our website. You can. We're doing a giveaway.
Colt Sky Racer, no
Colt
longer
Sky.
being made. Mm-hmm. Cool watch.
$2,000 watch. You get it for exactly $0. All you have to do is give us your information. So.
Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. See ya. Bye-bye.